All right, everybody, welcome back to the Chasing Larger Sports Stories podcast, where we have had a long time. And you've got your host, Chase Steffes, and Derek Larger over to my left, probably your right, whichever way that you're looking at it. And getting into the show, man, like I said, we have been so busy with work and our personal lives that we have not had a chance to get on and make a show, but that's going to start changing. We're going to get a consistent schedule going, and we're going to try to do 2 shows a week if we can. And Derek, I know that's going to be difficult, but let's try to get it done.
Absolutely, man. I'm down for that. But we got to go ahead and hop into this stuff real quick. We'll save the head coaching stuff here for a little bit. Chase brought up a couple different topics for us to talk about. And one of those was what's the best fit for DeAndre Hopkins? Apparently, they found out that the Cardinals are going to attempt to trade DeAndre Hopkins over this offseason. DeAndre is not the only player who has done this so far, but you can imagine DeAndre Hopkins' market definitely is very high. Of course, he's not a free agent, so a team would have to trade for him. What do you think here, Chase? What kind of incentive is needed to bring DeAndre Hopkins in, and is there a team out there that speaks for wanting DeAndre Hopkins the most?
Well, there's a long list of teams that could use him, but I know that there's 4 in particular that could make a really big push for him. I know that he said personally that he'd choose the Chargers or Jags. The Jags, I don't know if they're really going to try to go after him, especially now that they got Calvin Ridley coming back and the offensive weapons that they had. Like they had Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, and Evan Ingram all hit almost 1,000 yards this year total. So it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen there. I don't think that they'll go after D Hop, but I do think that the Chargers would be a good fit for him, giving Justin Herbert an explosive weapon, somebody that can take the top off the defenses, especially if the Chargers do fire Brandon Staley and they decide to make a big push for Sean Payton. That'll be huge because I heard that that is one of the destinations that Sean Payton would go if that job opened up. So that's one right there. Uh, the next fit I could see is D Hop going to Chicago. I don't know if he wants to be a part of a rebuild because I know that he's trying to win a championship, but the Bears have the most cap space in the league to spend. They're gonna get draft picks out the wazoo after they trade down from the number 1 overall pick. And Justin Fields is a strong arm quarterback that is, my opinion, got a better arm and better vision than what Kyler Murray does. So I think the Bears would be another good fit. The third team I got on the list is in desperate need of wide receiver help, and that is the New York Football Giants. I feel like if you bring in uh, DeAndre Hopkins, pair him with Daniel Jones, with Brian Daboll as that coach, they need wide receivers badly. They've got a good amount of cap to use. They could get some picks for him. I think that would be a significant um, pick up there for him. And then the last team, there's a couple other teams like wild card, like shot in the dark candidates, like maybe the Titans, maybe the Ravens. But I think the fourth team that would be a great fit for him would be the Cleveland Browns because pairing him up with his old quarterback Deshaun Watson, one that he's got very big chemistry with. And I know that that's one thing that we're missing on our offense is a big explosive guy, somebody that can take the top off the defense, somebody that can, get mismatch coverage, bring that away from Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones. It would be a great fit having him in Cleveland. You're probably thinking about the money-wise situation. Well, we're probably going to be restructuring a lot of contracts, maybe getting rid of a couple people and just trying to go younger. I know John Johnson's, got $12 million that if we cut him, we'll free that up this year. Or even if we trade him in a package to Arizona with the 3rd-round pick and John Johnson, I feel like that would be a good way to relieve some of that cap. So those are my 4 teams that I could see him going to. And I think that, the last one and the first one are the more realistic options for him.
Yeah, I mean, and another team that I don't think you mentioned was also the Tennessee Titans. If I had to take a
No, I
guess
did.
there. Oh,
They
you
were a
mentioned
wild
them
card
right
team.
off the top. Yeah, I think that one could be a good one because Vrabel and D Hop, they were together with the Texans. There's history there. And of course, Tennessee is looking for that, big star wide receiver to help change how they do things. So that'll be very interesting to say the least. I did want to throw something at you. I was looking at NFL Rumors Twitter page here just a second ago, and they tweeted this like late last night, so it explains why I didn't see it. But this is off topic, but we'll talk about it because it's funny. CBS Sports proposed a trade with the Colts and the Bears for the first overall pick. I want to hear your thoughts on this. So the Bears get DeForest Buckner. You trade that fourth pick and a 2024 first round pick. The Colts would get the Bears' second pick. So the Colts would, also trade their second round pick in 2023. So they're giving up their fourth and second this year, and a first next year, and DeForest Buckner, and they would get the first pick, clear $19 million in cap space, and get the second round pick from the Bears this year as well.
If the second round pick wasn't so far back, I would say that that's not a bad deal. But considering the fact that
it's not far off. Remember, the Colts have the 35th pick,
right?
And the Bears have the 32nd.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't, Derek. What happened was when Chase Claypool, or when Roquan Smith was traded to the Ravens, and the Steelers ended up trading Chase Claypool to the Bears. The Bears gave them the 32nd pick, and the Ravens gave them the 56th pick. So now that they are the 56th pick in the second round, and the Steelers have the 32nd.
I don't think that matters too much for them if it was 56 or not. They're at least getting another pick to add to it. I mean, what, you're giving up the 35th pick for the 56th pick? Okay, that's fine. You're still getting
14 picks.
You're still moving up three.
Right, but that's 14 picks that you're missing out on that you could easily get like a
I think we focus too much on the second round pick aspect of this. I mean, what you're basically saying is you're changing seconds, but you're changing your fourth pick to theirs. All you're really giving up is a first round pick and DeForest Buckner for it.
I mean, considering the fact that you get the number 1 overall pick, that's a pretty good deal in that.
I would say that's a pretty good deal. It's one of the better ones that I've seen about trading away people. And especially, I could see that being a possibility because Matt Eberflus, the head coach of the Bears, loves DeForest Buckner, and he likes to steal our players. So I could easily see a trade deal where a player is mixed in with this trade package. I mean, it might make it easier to not having to give up another draft pick in exchange for it.
Well,
it clears cap space.
Not only that, like the Bears would get DeForest Buckner, but they would also get a chance to get like Myles Murphy or like some other edge rusher at that fourth pick that they think that would be a top tier talent. So,
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we talked about D-Hop. We talked about a trade scenario. And then we can talk about this one more player aspect here. Derek Carr put out a tweet the other day talking about how this may be the last time that we see him in a Raiders uniform. He was making it sound as if he is looking to leave and go somewhere else. And we obviously saw from this last year where they benched him in one of the last weeks of the season. For whatever reason, we don't know. But Derek Carr took that as, his time being done in LA or Las Vegas. So, it's time to see if Derek Carr is going to go to another team. Chase, is there a team out there that, Derek Carr might want to end up going to?
There's a few. There's a few. I know that the Saints could use help. I know the Titans could use help. I know that you've got quite a bit of teams out there. The Panthers would be a good fit for him. Yeah, like, but I'd say the top two teams that like could use him are the New York Jets and the Carolina Panthers, because I feel like the Panthers brought in Derek Carr that would take them off the quarterback market. They're in the next position to draft the next player available, which would be whatever star-studded defensive talent that they really believe in, or go get another premier weapon opposite of DJ Moore, whether it be Quentin Johnston, whether it be JSN, whether it be Jordan Addison, you name it, they can go after them. So I think that Carolina would be a good fit, but I do think that the New York Jets are probably the best fit for Derek Carr, because if you were to take Derek Carr and you put him on the Jets, you pair him with Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Breece Hall when he comes back fully healthy, that offense is going to be dominant, because that's the one thing that the Jets were missing, was a good quarterback this year to be successful and to make it to the playoffs. And I feel like the Jets are going to do all that they can to try to make a push for Derek Carr and trade for him. If not, then they're going to do all that they can to trade up in the draft to get somebody. And I really don't think that they're going to get much for Zach Wilson if they try to trade him. Maybe a second, maybe a third, who knows? But I really don't see Zach Wilson. Yeah, if that. I really don't see Zach Wilson doing anything in this league except for being a backup, maybe. So the Jets and the Panthers are my two biggest destinations for him. Maybe Tennessee, maybe, if they decide to give up on Ryan Tannehill.
Potential. I do like the Jets one. I know I talked with you yesterday about that. I could see a very big scenario where Derek Carr does go to the New York Jets. And for a couple reasons, the owner of the Jets specifically came out and said, we are open to signing a veteran quarterback and making that person part of our team going forward. Like, he has openly expressed this idea. And of course, Derek Carr is 32 years old. He's still got a lot of juice left in him from what we know. And, for a team destination, one, Derek Carr, going to the New York market is a huge thing for you. It's huge for a brand. And the only thing is, when it comes to the contract, right? That's the big part, is Derek Carr is owed $40 million. So you have to find a team that is willing to at least take on the majority of that. They may restructure it a little bit, but the New York Jets are a young team. So, they seem like a kind of team that could handle a contract like that. Not every team in the NFL is going to have the option to do that right now. So I think that it would definitely be a smart idea for the Jets, because Derek Carr, you're matching him with this young nucleus of good players and a veteran guy in there that is still good. The Jets will be an immediate playoff team next year if they end up signing Derek Carr. So I think that highly of it. So and especially since, as good as the Jets were, for as young as they were this year, and they still did that. So,
and they had one of the better defenses in the league.
And they had one of the better defenses. Yeah. And they got a great head coach who knows how to motivate his players and how to keep everybody on track. That's it's again just going to be a situation where I feel like having a veteran in Derek Carr in that locker room, he'd mold right in with them right away. So, all right, well, let's start talking about some head coaching candidates. Now, I will say this right off the top, Chase. I don't know if you saw, I think I mentioned it to you the other day, but the reports are coming out that Sean McVay is planning to stay with the Rams. There was people who were claiming that he might be on his way out of LA, but nope, it's another report coming out that he is intending to stay.
Yeah, so, he announced it yesterday.
Yeah, that's good. That's good for the Rams, no doubt about that. But let's talk about one more head coach here, and it's a guy who has not been in the league for a few years now, and that's Sean Payton. Sean Payton has had several rumors about him this offseason that have reported that he is not only gearing up for an NFL return, but he's also bringing a new coaching staff with him, organizing them, getting ready for a return to whatever team wants to get him. Now, the only problem with it, Chase, is whoever wants Sean Payton has to trade away assets to bring him in because Sean Payton was currently under contract with the New Orleans Saints when he left. So therefore, the Saints still own the rights to Sean Payton. So the New Orleans Saints have a huge say in where Sean Payton goes. And so this leads it to a very tricky situation. A lot of people are just like, oh, we'll just go get Sean Payton. Well, from what it sounds like is somebody wants to give up a first round draft pick in order to get Sean Payton. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Like, what teams can and will be looking to get Sean Payton in this next cycle?
I think teams that are, on the cusp of success and they're just a coach away. Like you really like look at the teams that are poised to make a big strong push if they got a head coach, and I could see out of all of the ones that are open right now, all of the teams that are looking for head coaches, I'd say the most prominent one would probably be the Panthers. But I don't think that he would go there just because the Saints aren't going to let him go to the Panthers.
Yeah, go in the division, right?
Go into the division. So Colts, I know that they're trying to get a quarterback, so giving up a first round pick for a head coach would probably be off the table for them.
Yes.
So realistically, I could see him going to the Broncos because, pairing Sean Payton up with Russell Wilson, getting him back to his old self and everything, because we saw that after Nathaniel Hackett got fired, Russell Wilson was playing a lot better towards the end of the season. And I think if you bring in a guy like Sean Payton to right the ship in Denver and get Russell Wilson back to playing the way that he, knows that he can, then we'll see a lot of success that we originally thought would happen in Denver actually happen. So I could see Denver giving up a first round pick, especially now that they got one from the Bradley Chubb trade.
Yeah, that's the question, because there's 3 teams that have requested an interview with Sean Payton. Those 3 teams are the Denver Broncos, as you mentioned, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Houston Texans. So those are 3 teams so far that have requested an interview. Of those 3 teams, which one do you think is most likely to get Sean Payton right now?
I'd say the Denver Broncos. You mentioned the Houston Texans. That one's tricky. That one is very, very tricky because the Houston Texans have 2 first round picks, so they've got a pick to spare. They can give them that Cleveland pick at number 12 if they really don't want to give up the second overall pick. Because I believe that they're going to go after Young or even Stroud if he goes out. But regardless, Houston is in a rebuild situation. They've got 12 picks this year. They're going to have to build a lot of the team. I think if he does go to Houston, he'll have the big say on who they're going to take at quarterback. And he'll also have to make sure that he can have this team in the playoffs by next year because, I don't think that he'll go to a team that's going to rebuild. I do think that the team that he's going to go to, and that's going to decide the outcome of today's game. Today's game is going to decide that. And I do believe it's going to be the Los Angeles Chargers if Brandon Staley gets fired, because pairing him with one of the better quarterbacks in the league in Justin Herbert, giving him Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Jalen Guyton, a better offensive line and everything, that would honestly be very, very good for Sean Payton to go to, because they have a team built to go to the Super Bowl. And I think that with him and his coaching staff that he would go to, I'd say Denver or the Chargers are the 2 best options for him. Arizona, you're going to be missing a lot of pieces. You're going to be letting a lot of pieces go. I don't think that Arizona is a good fit for Sean.
Yeah, I think the only enticing aspect of it would be Kyler Murray, but then again, I don't know. We just don't know like what is Sean Payton's goal. Like, I mean, Sean Payton doesn't really, there's no actual report that he actually wants to come to anywhere. And even if he did, but he is getting interview requests. And it's one of those situations where, I mean, yeah, you brought up the Chargers, and that's a really great idea there. I don't know. It depends, because the problem is they can't start interviewing him until, their season ends. So maybe
it'll probably be today.
Maybe they're hoping for a end to their season tonight, and then tomorrow they can call Sean Payton's rep and bring him in. But yeah, I mean, we don't know. There's a problem of, does Sean Payton want an already built roster? Does Sean Payton want insight on who the next quarterback is going to be? All these different things. So we don't know right now. It's kind of difficult. And I would say from all of these, I would say that the best option is either the Texans or the Broncos, because the Broncos DC is probably on his way out as is. And then again, Sean Payton, if he has all these coaches wanting to come in with him, then, he can just bring them all into a place that has no structure, or coaching wise. So maybe that would be something, but it'll be interesting. Sean Payton's going to continue to be a hot commodity in this league going forward, and we'll see if he does end up making a return. At the end of the day, it all depends on who's going to be able to trade for him, right? Because that's going to be the big aspect of it. But let's go to another guy who hasn't been in the league for several years, but is thinking of going back to a return, and that is Jim Harbaugh. Rumors going around that, Jim Harbaugh might consider coming back to the NFL. He said he put out a statement saying that he believes he's going to be back with Michigan in 2023. Yeah, that doesn't help matters at all in making it truly believe that he wants to come back to Michigan. For one of the biggest ones that we have heard of for Jim Harbaugh, Chase, and for teams that Harbaugh might be interested in, and that is Indianapolis. From what I heard is there was an ESPN article out there that did hint at the idea that Jim Harbaugh would actually be interested in the Colts job if they wanted to pitch him a interview. I'm sure there's a couple other teams that, could potentially grab Jim Harbaugh. I know we talked about this, I think it was a week or two ago, but is there a chance that Jim Harbaugh will take an NFL job this offseason?
Not a chance. Not a freaking chance, because and I'm very much could be wrong about this, but they had this same issue last year when the Vikings interviewed him, and he said that was his last chance at the NFL. He went back to Michigan and told his team that he's not going to take another NFL coaching job, and they don't have to worry about it. And that's why a lot of the recruits and a lot of the people decided to go to Michigan, because you had a lot of people that were ready to decommit from Michigan and go somewhere else if he wasn't going to come be there and come back and all that. And I think that I don't know if the Colts have interviewed him, but I know that the Broncos.
No, not yet.
Yeah, I know the Broncos have interviewed him and everything. And like, if he was to come back, it'd be the Broncos or the Colts. Like, those are the only two teams that are interviewing him, or at least the Colts might interview him, but like the Broncos definitely have. And the only way I could see him coming back to the NFL, the only way I could see him, leaving Michigan, is if they make an offer that he cannot refuse and Michigan cannot pay. Like, if they're paying him $10, $11, $12 million a year and Michigan can only cap it at $8, he'll come to the NFL and start coaching again here. I mean, you're talking about a coach who has had success in this league, has taken his team to multiple NFC championship games, taken them to the Super Bowl. He knows what he's doing in the NFL. He knows the NFL inside and out, and he knows how it's supposed to be. So it's going to be interesting to say the least, but I don't think that there's a chance that he comes back unless somebody makes him an offer he can't refuse.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to, Jim Harbaugh, I mean, there are a ton of teams that are doing their homework on Jim Harbaugh. And I've heard several different ESPN tidbits that if the offer is right, Jim Harbaugh will return to the NFL. Again, like when it comes to the situation, we saw him address in a statement saying that he believes he'll be back in 2023. The wording of that statement was not good if you are a Michigan person, because he didn't just come out and say, I am 100% fully committed to Michigan, will not even entertain the idea of anything in the NFL. My strict duty is to Michigan. That's the problem, is we didn't hear that. We heard him saying the idea is to be back at Michigan. That's what I truly believe. But, that's some sort of situation where, Harbaugh didn't shoot it down. And I think that if there are plenty of teams that I think would, throw an idea out there to Jim Harbaugh. I've heard insane rumors that the Panthers, might offer him like anywhere from 15 to 18 million dollars to do that. I've heard some crazy offers. So I would not be surprised if Harbaugh does come to the NFL. But we will just have to see, because I mean, like I said, the Colts probably would be one of those teams. I've heard reports that Jim Irsay is extremely interested in getting Harbaugh and that he's the top of the list. But again, that's just one of those situations where I just am unsure of it at this point. But we can just kind of go ahead and go off on these other things. We have some more head coaching candidates. We've been talking about it, Chase, for quite a few days now. What are some of your favorite head coaching candidates other than Sean Payton that we talked about? What are some that you realistically think could be head coaches somewhere else this year?
Okay, so my honorable mentions go to Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton. We still are uncertain about the future of Jim Harbaugh just because we don't know. It's 50-50, and if he was distinctly 100% going to be just focused on the NFL, trying to be an NFL head coach, he would be in my top 5 candidates, but we don't know the future of him. We also don't know the future of Sean Payton. We don't know if teams are going to be willing to give up their first-round pick to the Saints to be able to acquire the rights to him, to get him. Who knows? And, we don't know at this point. So honorable mentions, Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh. Number 5, I'm going with my man, Brian Flores. He had 2 years as an NFL head coach. He took a Miami Dolphins team from the depths of where they were to a 9-8 record his first year. Then the following season, people were asking for him to be fired right away, saying that, he lost the, locker room, lost the respect of the team. And all in all, we started off 1-7 and then finished 9-8 and barely missed the playoffs. And, there was reports going around that the reason why that he got fired is because he missed the playoffs 2 years in a row and was on the cusp. But we all know it's because him and Chris Grier were, at each other's throats. And it's just like, okay, I'm sticking with my GM over my head coach, which in the bottom line, the Dolphins made a lot of great moves on their roster. But, Brian Flores really, in my opinion, is a good head coach, and I would love to have him as my DC in Cleveland. But if he gets a chance to go to Arizona, hopefully he can have the success that he needs. So I'm gonna go with not Sean Payton, Brian Flores as my 5th candidate. My 4th candidate, Eric Bieniemy. I really truly believe this guy is special, and I do believe that he could be a top coach in the league in the next couple of years because, if anything was to strengthen his resume even more, because I feel like that's the reason why, because like we know how black head coaches have panned out in this league, and the only one that's had so long tenure is Mike Tomlin. And I think that the reason that Eric Bieniemy hasn't really taken a job is because he wants to strengthen his resume 100% and make sure that he has, no stone unturned. I mean, you look at his resume; he's made it to several NFC or AFC championships. He's coached Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. He's got one of the top offenses in the league. And this year, Mahomes had one of the best seasons of his career. And not to mention, this offense was a top 3 offense in the league without Tyreek Hill and just a bunch of number 2 wide receivers on this team. So, if anything was to strengthen his resume and strengthen his, candidacy, it's this season definitely. So Eric Bieniemy still one of my top candidates, and I've always had a knack for picking coaches better than I have players. And I sent you a text on the reasons why. My third candidate, what's his name, Derek? The Eagles OC?
Shane Steichen.
Yeah, Shane Steichen is actually he's interchangeable between 2 and 3 right here. Shane Steichen has been generating a lot of buzz lately, and rightfully so, with the way that the Eagles offense has been, with the way that Jalen Hurts has been playing, playing like an MVP candidate, how many points that Eagles offense have scored, and even when Gardner Minshew came in, like they still were able to put up a decent amount of points for a couple weeks. I think Shane Steichen is going to be a hot commodity, and I know that there's 2 teams already that have interviewed him for their coaching vacancies. So it'll be interesting to say the least. My number 2 guy is DeMeco Ryan. I feel like he's a leader amongst men. He led that 49ers defense to the best defense in the league, and we have also seen him just bring guys together. And we've also seen what guys can do with that Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. So it'll be very interesting to see if DeMeco Ryan, he's like the second defensive coordinator on this list that I feel like, or defensive coach that I feel like will be successful in this league. And my number 1 guy has to go to Ben Johnson. I mean, you taking over in 2021 with a abysmal Lions offense, not putting up very many points, but is still competing with teams each week, and going to this year where you get like DJ Chark, Jameson Williams, you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams. You name it. You got all those guys, a upgraded offensive line. You do this all without TJ Hockenson for half the year after they traded him. And he put up some of the most points in the NFL. The Lions had a top 5 offense in the league. He brings guys in, and they buy into what he's got going on the offensive side of the football. And the way that he designs plays, I mean, he's even gotten his offensive linemen involved. He's gotten, his quarterback involved in a lot of quarterback runs and everything. Like he's just so dynamic when it comes to running an offense, and the way that he brings people together. I really think that Ben Johnson is the best candidate to get a head coaching job this offseason. And I will be very, very shocked if he doesn't get one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Ben Johnson's going to get one way or another. Ben Johnson is probably the most sought after guy when it comes to that. Ben Johnson's my number 1. I've talked with you about this so much. Like, I mean, Ben Johnson, I would just love to have on my team. I mean, he's just such a phenomenal coach, and how he was able to take, what a lot of people deemed as subpar players and, transition it into a top offense in the league. Even with the fact that the Lions defense was the worst defense in the league, he was still able to do that from that perspective, which is really awesome. DeMeco Ryans from the 49ers, their defensive coordinator, is another one that it should be a top candidate anywhere. What he's able to do, he's not only a defensive mastermind, but what he's able to do by getting the best out of his players. This is a guy that is a genuine leader amongst men. And I think that that's the biggest aspect is, somebody who, is able to get the most out of your players and be that loud voice holding people accountable. Because DeMeco Ryans is not a timid guy. He is a very outspoken, loud, emotional guy. And that's something that I think a lot of people are either really drawn to, or people just absolutely hate it. And the only people that hate it are people that don't really love the game. So therefore, if you don't get along with DeMeco Ryans, you're just a guy that doesn't need to be on the team anyway. But I mean, looking at what, happened from, you could just even look at what the San Francisco defense did in 2021 to what it did in 2022. I mean, it's not like it really got much healthier. And I know they have a lot of great players on that team, but I mean, they were the number one team in opponents' points per game, number one in total yardage, 8th most in pressure rate, 4th best in yards per play, and number one in DVOA rank. So, I mean, everything, and even in 2021, that's a huge jump. They were 10th best in points per game last year, 3rd best in yards per game, 20th in pressure rate. So DeMeco Ryans really just went from changing his style, and now all of a sudden it is just gone just immediately better for them. So I love DeMeco Ryans. My only problem with him if I were the Colts, I just question, with the fact that he runs his team a specific way. Does that, if your defense doesn't play the way that he likes it to, it'll change. I wonder if anything will change with that if I'm the Indianapolis Colts, because Gus Bradley and them, they run their defense a completely different way than DeMeco Ryans likes to. So, how does that work, right? So it'll be very difficult. But Shane Steichen, for me, again, like you said, Nick Sirianni has given praise, saying that, Steichen is the main play caller for them now. So it makes total sense that Steichen is a very sought after guy, because this Eagles offense has just been phenomenal this year. So makes total sense that you would want to bring him in for an opportunity. I've talked about Jim Harbaugh. I would love to have Jim Harbaugh brought in. And another one, I don't know. There's a couple more here that I can mention. I know the Colts have already signed, or have already talked with Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator for the Rams. They're supposed to talk to Ejiro Evero, the defensive coordinator for the Broncos. So I definitely think those are some good ones. From an offensive perspective, though, I know you're not huge on Ken Dorsey.
Nope.
I think that some people have the same argument as you when you're talking about Ken Dorsey, like how drastic is Ken Dorsey's difference with the Buffalo Bills. I mean, clearly the offense got a little better, but you question just how much better it actually is.
Did it really though? Because there was,
it did. It's because Josh Allen got hurt this year for several weeks, and he didn't have that issue in 2021. It was clear from the first 10 weeks before his injury, their points per game and how they were scoring was up tremendously. I mean, they were averaging at least 5 more points per game on average than what they were through the first half of the season last year. I mean, they were just dominating teams early on. They weren't just beating teams. I mean, they were averaging 35 points a game. But
Josh
then,
Allen's play went down. He had a lot of games where he could barely score any points. You look at the Dolphins game; they scored 19 freaking points.
I have to look at what games. I mean, even in that Dolphins game that you're mentioning, the Bills had 500 yards of offense. They just didn't score.
But you couldn't get in the end zone.
That's not Ken Dorsey's problem.
Your job is to go down and have your offense score touchdowns. Brian Daboll ran this offense a lot better than what Ken Dorsey did. And look at what Brian Daboll's done. Brian Daboll took the New York Football Giants, who have no wide receiver core whatsoever, and took them to the playoffs. And at the
Chase, they had 520 yards of offense in that game.
But you could 520. You can only score 14 points.
You scored 19, but it doesn't matter. It's not Ken Dorsey's fault on whether or not Josh Allen was unable to throw it to one more guy. If you got 500 yards of offense, Chase, that means that you were constantly in the red zone. Constantly.
It is his job to design the plays, to get the players.
And it hasn't been a problem for the majority of the year. Every team has an issue at times against defenses. Even Patrick Mahomes against the Bills the first time, they only scored 17. They only scored 17.
Listen, you go back to that playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs last year where it was just a shooting match with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. If that does not happen this year after they play the Dolphins and they go on to the AFC Championship or they even get knocked out in the divisional round, I'm blaming Ken Dorsey for.
There's no shot that they get knocked out of the divisional round. There's no shot.
I'm blaming Ken Dorsey for a chunk of it because this offense ran better under Brian Daboll than it is under Ken Dorsey. I'm sorry, it's the fact.
Well, I mean, like I said, there are a lot of ways to interpret it. I want to see what we can do, but we talked about our favorite head coaching candidates real quick before we get into talking about the games for this weekend. Let's talk about CJ Stroud here for a second, because we were talking about it and we thought it was very interesting. CJ Stroud, the quarterback for the Ohio State Buckeyes, who's projected to be a top 5 pick in the draft this year, has not declared for the NFL draft yet. He has until the end of the weekend to decide. There's rumors coming out recently that he is been offered a $4 million NIL deal to stay at Ohio State for one more year. I mean, Chase, what do you make of this? Is there a shot that CJ Stroud doesn't go into the draft this year?
There's a huge shot because like you mentioned, if you want to make a legacy for yourself and, improve your draft stock. I don't know how much more you can improve other than the number 1 overall pick, but because he's going he's going as the top QB or he's going top 3. There's no doubt about it in this draft class. It's him and Bryce Young are the top 2 candidates to go 1 and 2 for the first 2 quarterbacks off the board. But if it's in terms of money and that's what he's going back for, you can make a lot more going out in the NFL draft. But if it's for a legacy issue, like you said, he has not beaten Michigan. He has not won the Heisman. He has not won any awards. He has a chance at a natty title and getting Marvin Harrison back, getting Ibuka back, getting Fleming back, getting Tommy Eichenberg back because Tommy Eichenberg announced that he's coming back. There's a lot. Jones, one of their offensive linemen's coming back. There's a lot of players that have, come out and said that they're coming back to Ohio State for one more year. And they're just like this person that posted in the comments, AM Clockwork. Thank you for tuning in. He said that he thinks that CJ Stroud needs to go back to Ohio State for one more year to be good.
That's my cousin.
Hey,
what up, Boston?
I
still think Stroud needs another year to be good.
I really don't think so.
I've had so many arguments with not only like Buckeye fans, but like my family, because all my family are Buckeye fans. And almost every single one of them has the same argument that Stroud is really not that great and that he needs to stay another year and then he'll be a god. I don't think so. I think that people underestimate how good he actually is. And that, the problem that we have is the fact that a lot of people, like especially Ohio State fans in general, can't look at the whole picture of everything going on at Ohio State and say that that's the problem. Like Stroud has been amazing all year, statistically should have won the Heisman, all things considered. But at the end of the day, I think that he has done enough now to be an NFL prospect and to be a good player in this NFL league.
That Georgia game showed enough.
Georgia game showed you enough that he is perfectly capable of being a quarterback in the NFL. Perfectly capable. Yeah. But there's some people that think he needs to do that. And, it's quite possible he could. I mean, maybe he does think he needs to develop or he wants to accomplish more.
Maybe he pulls a Justin Herbert. I mean, look how well Justin Herbert was. Like, he decided to go back to Oregon one more year, and now look at how that benefited him. He's playing as a top 5 quarterback in the league. Maybe that'll happen with CJ Stroud. I don't know. I truly think that there's a situation where he comes back to Ohio State. But if that's the case, are you going to have some of these 4-star, 5-star quarterbacks decommit and go somewhere else this year because CJ is coming back? Because more than likely CJ is definitely going to be the starter. But regardless, I mean, hindsight's 50-50. I really think that he'll go back to college, but I really also think that he'll go to the NFL.
I don't know. I question it because there's only like 2 reasons why he would want to go back to college, and it's one of them is not money. Because he would make more money being and especially since, if he were to stay, I mean, you have to compete against Caleb Williams in the draft next year. You have to compete against Drake May in the draft next year. And then you might have to worry about a couple other
Spencer Rattler, if he decides to go off.
Stroud will probably be QB3 next year, when there's quite a few people that honestly think Stroud is QB1 in this draft. So it's like,
AM Clockwork, I got a question for you. What does he have to work on that needs to make him to where he's going to be an NFL quarterback or NFL ready next year? Like, what do you not see in CJ Stroud that,
I think, that'd be a good question. I think the majority of the things that I get from people is that they don't believe he's mentally tough enough to be in the NFL. And I question that, because we talk about mental fortitude as if we're inside the mind of that person all the time, like as if we know what they're thinking and how they're doing. But it is what it is. The better decision-making skills. He always seems hesitant in the pocket.
Did you watch that Georgia game? Like,
I know he did.
He did not.
I think that they're just taking his overall body of work. And there's no doubt that, like, if you look at the pressure rates, he was one of the worst quarterbacks at handling the pressure. It's one of those situations where he's just got to work on that. But a lot of his bigger plays happen when he's running around desperately looking for an open guy. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. That happens in the NFL, for guys to get out of the pocket and make a throw on the run. It's good that he is able to make those kinds of plays. But he's made plenty of amazing throws from within the pocket. I just think that the problem we have is for CJ Stroud is we're trying to nitpick how, or we think that an issue that he has is greater than what it actually is. I think that's a problem.
Derek, I need to ask you a very important question. Do you think if CJ Stroud was on another college football team, we would be having these discussions or these issues on the things that people are nitpicking? Because think about it. I feel like the reason why people are nitpicking at these issues and giving them, the spotlight is because he's an Ohio State quarterback.
Yes, 100%. I mean, would it still be an issue that I think some people would bring up? Yeah, probably. I know some people that would definitely still make the same argument, but to the extent at which they're doing it for CJ Stroud because he's an Ohio State quarterback, no, they wouldn't be. It's clear that, we have we have a problem with explaining so many other issues about other quarterbacks that we can't get out of our own heads that he's an Ohio State quarterback. I know people I interact with on a daily basis, Chase, that say, I don't want anything to do with CJ Stroud because he's an Ohio State quarterback. Nothing. I don't care if he turns into a god next year. I don't care if he turns into the greatest things ever. Yeah, I know you are, Austin. I definitely know you are.
Now, Austin, let me ask you the same question. If he was on a different team, like let's say Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, whatever it may be, would you be this critical of CJ Stroud, or would you think that he has what it takes to go to the NFL?
I mean, I feel the same way about him regardless. I look at the player and I see what he's capable of doing. I mean, I see Bryce Young. Bryce Young's not throwing the same, not throwing as good of a ball as CJ Stroud. He's not as tall as CJ Stroud. Bryce Young may not even be 6 foot tall, bro. He's literally the same height as Kyler Murray. It's one of those situations where, and Bryce Young has great escapability, but his arm and accuracy is not the same. It's not the same. It is nothing like CJ Stroud's. I question, he's like,
There
yeah,
you
I
go.
wouldn't be
That makes
nearly
more
as
sense.
hard as on him. Yeah, that's usually how it is for everybody's teams, right? But I just think that I hate the people who say I'm opposed to Ohio State quarterbacks. For that reason, he's just from Ohio State. No other reason given. It is such a cop-out argument. It's just does no service to anyone when you pass up on a legit elite passer like CJ Stroud just because he went to a university. I hate that argument. I just absolutely hate it. I wouldn't do that for any university. None. There's plenty of universities that have never brought in really great quarterback talent. But if you see, but like nobody's bringing up the fact that Caleb Williams is now at USC, and like nobody's saying, oh, he's from USC. They don't bring in a lot of great quarterbacks into the NFL. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that because you know how good he is. Because we don't need to know that he's at USC to know that Caleb Williams is a generational talent. Like, we don't need to know that. We already know. So it just sucks that, you know, I hope he declares. Now, me personally, I don't care either way, because if he comes back to Ohio State again, then that's instant title favorite right there.
Yeah, but you know the Colts want a franchise.
I know, and that's what would concern me. That was what would concern me. People love Joe Burrow, and he was a Buckeye more than a Tiger, I think. Well, he definitely, I think Buckeye fans just love Joe Burrow just because, you know, Joe Burrow was there. I mean,
Derek,
we stake claim to Joe Burrow sometimes. We stake claim to Joe Burrow at times as Buckeye fans. But anyway, but yeah, if CJ Stroud doesn't commit, then that's one less great quarterback that we have to look on. And then when, you know, if we don't do that, then I don't know if the Colts would even trade up, you know, because then you only have Bryce Young and Will Levis to fight for, you know, and that makes it more difficult. You have to move up at that point. You have to, or else you might miss it. So I don't know.
All right, let's move on to our predictions because I got to get going.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
All right, let's do this. All right, so we have the wild card weekend predictions. The two games that are today, we have the Seattle Seahawks versus the San Francisco 49ers. Brock Purdy and Geno Smith. Chase, who you got?
I know that the Niners are looking pretty good. I got the 49ers. That defense is going to be too overwhelming for the Seattle Seahawks. I think they're going to get to Geno in the backfield a lot. I think that Brock Purdy's fire is still going to keep burning for at least this week. I think that if he goes into the divisional round or even the championship, he will fall. They will not make the Super Bowl. No rookie quarterback has ever done it. And I think that the pressure of the playoffs and the way that things have been, or the way that things are in the playoffs gets to them. So I'm going to go with the Niners for this one.
We'll see. I mean, it's one of those situations. There's no doubt in my mind that San Francisco wins this game. The only team that I see posing a threat to the 49ers right now is the Philadelphia Eagles. Honestly, it's the only team I see threatening them.
Eagles fly.
Yep. Eagles, only one to threaten the 49ers right now. 49ers will destroy the Seahawks tonight. And then we have the late night game, and that is the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, I'm 100% going with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, you got a banged up Chargers team. Herbert's still a little bit banged up from his ribs. You've got Austin Eckler that's not at 100%. The freaking offensive
And
line.
Mike Williams is expected to not play in that game either.
Yeah, the offensive line is in disarray with everything that's going on. I'm going with the Jags because last time that they played them, when Kenny Guyton went down and Keenan Allen was not there, oh yeah, no, it was a mess. And the Jags ended up dropping a 40 burger on them the last time that happened. So I'm going to go with the Jags on this one.
I'm going with the Jags here too, man. I mean, it's at home for the Jags, and like you said, the last time they played the Chargers, they destroyed them. I mean, I just think that the Chargers are just very dismantled right now, and I think that Jacksonville is playing really good football right now. So I think that Jacksonville's going to handle the Chargers in this situation, and then we could see Staley get fired the next day.
If the Chargers lose this playoff game, it's 100% Brandon Staley's fault.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Well, and then on top of it, people are talking about, the fact that he played the starters last week against the Broncos, and Mike Williams ended up getting hurt.
That's the reason why. It's like, why you're
already in the playoffs. You're already in the playoffs, and the seeding doesn't matter because you're gonna end up being the least favorited either way. So yeah, it honestly didn't make any sense to play the starters, but yeah. We'll see. Yeah, exactly. If the Chargers lose, then Staley's going to be out of a job.
Then let's go to the Sunday games.
Yep, Sunday games. We got the Miami Dolphins versus the Buffalo Bills.
Is there any question? I mean, you got Skylar freaking Thompson playing for the Miami.
Yeah, you got
Dolphins.
Skylar Thompson playing. Unless Tyreek goes off for like 250 yards, then I don't see any way that the Bills lose this game. So
yeah, I'm going with the Bills.
Let's go Bills. All right, the Giants versus the Vikings.
Two teams that played just a couple weeks ago. I don't think
it was a low-scoring game, if I'm not mistaken.
I really don't know if Daniel Jones was playing that game. Was he playing that game?
I think so.
Okay,
yeah, I think so.
So I don't know. This is a coin flip for me. I'm gonna go with my gut, and I'm gonna go with the New York Giants.
Oh, geez. All right. I'll go with the Minnesota Vikings in this one. I like the Giants, but I think that they made it to the playoffs. Their journey ride's over.
Their lack of weapons is gonna catch up.
Their lack of weapons in this situation is really gonna kill them. So the Vikings have all the weaponry in the world right now to destroy the Giants. So I think the Vikings will get them, especially being at home. All right, the Ravens versus the Bengals. No Lamar Jackson, by the way.
Yeah, he's not going to play. Like, it's already came out and said it's going to be Anthony freaking Brown playing. I'm going to go with the Bengals in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. The Bengals. Bengals are riding high, and the Bengals have, their confidence is through the freaking roof. They truly believe that they can get back to the Super Bowl again this year. Honestly, if the Bengals make it to the Super Bowl again this year, Chase, then I truly think they'll win it. I truly think they will.
It's going to be tough. It'll
be tough, but we'll see. And the last game of the weekend, and that's the Monday night matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The only team in the playoffs this year that does not have a winning record that is playing in the playoffs this year. If that tells you how bad the NFC South is, I don't know what else to tell.
I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I mean, listen, they've been up and down all season long, but when it comes down to it, I feel like they're going to get their head on their shoulders. They're going to get everything in check, and they're going to do all right. I feel like they're finally going to lift that burden off their shoulders of not being able to beat Tom Brady, and they're going to get like 3 sacks on him in this game. I feel like the Cowboys are going to win 27-17 in this game.
I don't know. Didn't the Cowboys and Tampa Bay already play this year? Didn't Tampa end up winning?
Week 1.
I tell you what, dude, I really think the Cowboys will win, but I'm going with my gut. Tampa Bay will upset the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs.
You're not. If we have another Tom Brady Super Bowl, I'm going to lose my freaking mind.
Are going to upset the Cowboys. They always have their number. Always. They run the ball more efficiently on the Cowboys than any other team. They just always pick them apart. I'm going with Tampa. I'm going with Tampa. As much as I think Dallas should win, I mean, I just see Tampa always just putting it together. So
I'm gonna lose my freaking mind if we have another Tom Brady Super Bowl.
Yeah, Austin's like most likely upset, to be fair. Yeah, absolutely. I think that is the most likely upset. Even though I don't know if the Jaguars is considered an upset for the Chargers. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call it an upset, even though the Chargers are favored in that game. It's really not by that much, though. I think that just like this totality of like which team absolutely should win but might lose anyway. Yeah, I think that one definitely makes the most sense. But all right, well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. The good hour-long podcast here today. We had a lot of fun, a lot more to talk about here in the upcoming weeks. But thank you guys again so much for tuning in. This is the Chasing Larger Sports Stories podcast. Have a good rest of your weekend.